Welcome to the third chair. I'm Peter, that's Doug, and our guest has been delayed in traffic. Hopefully they'll show up later. Tonight is our special. What are we going to do? Well, until they get here, I guess we have to talk about things, and it might be off the rails.
Yeah, this is the biggest mistake I'll have ever made. The off the rails episode, letting you two just go and talk about anything?
Well, if the guest doesn't come, that's what's going to happen. And I know for a fact we're going to be talking some baseball trivia. Because
that's the only thing I know.
Well, and that's the only thing that's important, right? The national debt.
And you know how to count really well. I mean, you were an auditor.
The national
counting is important in baseball.
That's right. The national debt is $31 trillion, but we're talking baseball. Oh, hey, I made a funny.
The national debt has just been going up for years.
It seems to have accelerated the last 6 or 8 years.
It's accelerating. That's the problem.
Yeah, but now we're at $31 trillion. That's a lot of.
I thought you were going to donate that because you got. I thought $31 trillion in your wallet.
I thought they came to you asking for a loan.
Yeah. To
reduce that amount.
That's called taxes?
Yeah. I have the IRS coming asking me for money, but they're not calling it a loan. And they don't pay me interest either. Don't you think that's not right? I mean, if you're late paying the IRS, they charge you interest and a penalty. But if they owe you money, you get the money and that's it. No interest.
Yeah, the last few years they've been pretty fast though because if you use TurboTax.
Yeah.
So.
I use TurboTax.
Oh, I use Turtle Tax. That's the problem.
See?
Turtle wax or Turtle Tax?
Now, Doug uses turtle wax on his turtle.
Yeah. So, besides baseball tonight, and we got to talk baseball because like baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, and Chevrolet, that's kind of an American idea.
Well, Ford and Chevy might argue. I mean, Ford and General Motors might argue with you. Or is Chevy part of General Motors? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that trivia quite as well.
I know Ford is a different company.
Well, gathering some thoughts for this episode on baseball trivia, it is incredibly fascinating to look at the history and what different players brought to the game or even the culture at the time. Truly a fascinating study. And we're going to test.
So you've been studying it this week?
I looked at it. I grew up in Canada, so I know hockey better than baseball. Mm-hmm. Except for the Toronto Blue Jays when they...
Your kid, one of the first superstars was Bobby Orr.
Bobby Orr was phenomenal. He changed the game.
Yeah, he changed the game.
Totally. I mean,
anybody.
He played defense, and he had years where he won the scoring title. And
he was the first one on defense to actually attack and go to the net.
Yeah, attack a lot and make spectacular plays. Yeah. He'd often hit Phil Esposito for a goal. And the other thing, too, watching Bobby Orr, that was so amazing, he would literally, on a penalty kill, like when the Bruins were shorthanded, he would just rag the puck. He would skate in circles for 1.5 minutes, and the other team couldn't get it back.
I saw him in the Stanley Cup Finals against the Philadelphia Flyers. The Bullies, they were called the Broad Street Bullies. Yeah. And he did that, and they couldn't touch him.
They couldn't touch him. And the thing
for
about
2 minutes, yeah, it's like
he was so good. His moves were so good that he'd be skating up the ice, and then you'd see another player just literally skate off in another direction, and you'd think, why are you skating off in the other direction? It was because his fakes and that were so good, so smooth that people never knew what he was doing. He just was totally amazing.
Yeah.
And he was, and what was not known about Bobby Orr is that he was actually really tough. His first year in the league, he got into a few fisticuffs and more than held his own, punching it out with other NHLers. And so he had a little bit of a reputation of being...
In the 60s, the NHL was a little rougher than it is today.
Well, they
to
didn't...
say the least.
You can go back to the 60s, even part of the 70s. There were players not wearing helmets.
Oh, yeah. I think the last person was 80s.
Yeah, the 80s before it became mandatory. Yeah, so Bobby Orr was pretty amazing. He changed the game. There's other people that did too. We'll talk about them perhaps. Like Wayne Gretzky, people know.
Oh, yeah.
Mario Lemieux was another
Wayne
one.
Gretzky could pass like anybody.
He sure could.
I mean, that was unique.
And he invented taking the puck behind the opposition's net to set up people in front by intentionally going behind the net, which was, a little bit in a more controlled way.
Office.
Yeah, he called it his office. He was.
He could see the player was coming, and he could see the play develop, and he would just hit the guy, and the guy would shoot.
Yeah, it was. And he could skate too, and he didn't have a bad shot. He still scored a lot of goals. But,
pretty good, but I mean that wasn't what made him great.
No,
that's why he could see in the ice more than anything.
Oh, totally. And he was playing against 18-year-olds when he was like 14. Yeah, he was that good.
And he was playing against 30 years old when he was 17.
Yeah, he had a multi-million-dollar contract when he was 17 years old.
Yeah.
It's not enough to live on, but it's not bad for a kid. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Canadian money, though.
That's a Canadian money. Well,
$1.25 in the United States money.
Well, I was looking into baseball. It seems like there are teams that sort of have the same problem as some of the NHL teams, and that is they have small markets and they have trouble having enough money to offer premium payrolls.
Yes, that is not a new problem. If you look at baseball history, the Philadelphia Phillies in the 30s, 40s, 20s, into the 20s, 30s, 40s, they went like 35 years and they finished above 500 once. And they usually finish last.
Yeah. I mean, it's a problem. It's a problem.
So it's always been a problem and it's a challenge. I mean, they try to balance it out, and the NFL has done the best job of that. Mm-hmm. I think pro hockey's getting better at it too. Yeah,
what some teams have done, I can think of a few that in order to clinch a Stanley Cup, they would buy, like for one season, marquee players. Yeah. Because they'd have the money to do
Sometimes that works, and sometimes it's awfully expensive.
Well, here in Colorado, I mean, the Avalanche did it. Do you remember the year we brought in Ray Bourque for a year from Boston?
Yeah, he kind of finished that team.
Yeah, to finish that team
we needed another defensive man. And even though he was old, it was
enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, to win
that ended up being his last year. He was thinking of retiring, and then he also wanted to win the Stanley Cup.
Oh, yeah, that was probably why he made the move. And I remember the Detroit Red Wings did that a few times. One season they won, they brought in Brett Hull. They brought in Chilios from Chicago, who was a big, tough defenseman. And so you see teams do that to try and make their push. But again, you have to win as a team. Sometimes you can have a bunch of...
Oh, yeah. So that's what happened in soccer. They bought in Pelé. They bought in, like, the best player from Europe and the New York team.
The New York Cosmos.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, that year, the Vancouver Whitecaps beat them. I remember that.
Yeah, and they never won a championship.
Yeah, they eliminated them. The final was against Tampa.
They just they didn't play well together.
No. That's always a guess. Can the chemistry work? Now, if I recall correctly, didn't we have some sort of dream team basketball team for the Olympics that lost a bunch of games, even though we had a bunch of
they called them the dream. The original dream team was great, and then it slowly went down, and they called it the dream team because it was a U.S. team. But you looked at those players, and they weren't all dream players. And so,
yeah, but they were losing like the Ukrainian men's basketball team or something.
Some of those teams in Europe I mean, Europe was going this way, and the athletes, and that's, and after that, some of the better players, pros, started getting back in it. Like LeBron James, Kobe Bryant. I can't remember the one that played here in town and went to the Knicks. But in Denver and went to the Knicks. I can't remember his name. But they got together and they said, we'll do the Olympics. And then we started winning again. But they called it the Dream Team. It was like, I haven't even heard of half of these guys.
Yeah.
The original game team was like guys who were like...
Well...
I don't think there was one Dream Team, and that was the original one in with Magic and Bird and Jordan in '92. I mean, they had, I mean, older great players, younger great players, and I mean, it was probably more career-wise talent than any team.
Well, we will talk more sports trivia and other life issues when we come back.
Hopefully. I get to one other life issue. I heard our guest Sammy the Turtle is on his way.
Yeah, I got a text from Sammy during the break. Unfortunately, he was pulled over and got a speeding ticket.
I'm in trouble.
So we'll see how fast the cops collect him, and hopefully he'll be here soon.
I want to see that ticket, otherwise he's not getting paid.
We pay our guests a lot.
Yeah, one meal each.
A piece of chicken each.
Well, Sammy gets monkey biscuits. Peter tried those once.
They're quite tasty.
Yeah. Speaking of Sammy, you mentioned we talked about Sammy Sosa and
Sammy Sosa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Now that's a segue right there.
Yeah, Sammy. So is it true? Did he come clean about using steroids?
I don't think he's ever come clean.
Mark McGuire came clean.
And
they were like playing against each other.
They were in the home run race.
Home run race that year.
Yeah, and they were national heroes.
They were national heroes.
Yeah, I mean because they were racing to break Maris's record, and then McGuire hit 70 and Sosa hit 66, and Barry Bonds said, "Well, wait a minute, I'm better than they are." So he worked with the weights. Let's put it that way. I didn't directly accuse anybody, but his head looked bigger. But in my opinion, I mean, so. And then he broke their record, and then Sammy hit 63 years in a row, and I mean 60 only had been hit twice before. McGuire hit 66 after he hit 70, and then baseball was happy. It was like, hey, come and see the home runs. And
then
Congress got involved.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of like, it wasn't even a hidden secret. You just look at it and you said, oh yeah.
Well,
this person is on steroids. This person's on steroids.
I mean, one of the things that often can give it away, though, is you can look at very good athletes before the time that steroids were available, and they're muscular. You look at like Mr. Atlas and that, or some of the military people, and then you look at when steroids are available. There's just such a difference in the amount of muscle mass. And they're both pumping iron. It's just you can tell it's they've had an enhanced effect.
The steroids were available when we were in high school.
Oh yeah,
I remember in high school reading an article about the dangers of steroids. But the thing is, they were illegal to take, but baseball had no rule about them. They had no checks, and then and that kind of gets me. In the player's point of view, it's kind of like, hey, this is my job. I want to get better. And they see other players, and they're like, oh, so why don't I do it? I can see the player's mind.
I can too.
It.
But I can also see the person that says, I'm going to play by the rules, and losing because they play by the rules.
It's like Will Clark. I mean,
yeah.
He retired earlier, and he had to haul up. It looked like he's going to be a Hall of Famer, and now all these guys have these great statistics, and his don't look as good.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And it's a controversial issue, but I think baseball itself, the major leagues and the commissioner and the owners, they really have themselves to blame a lot too. I mean, they did not do what they were supposed to do.
Well, and doesn't help that you've got chemistry labs, people that can make synthetic versions of the different compounds so that the drug tests won't pick them up. They're always a year behind.
Yeah,
so performance enhancing drugs
too. I mean, that's how Lance Armstrong got caught. He was long retired when he got caught.
yeah.
And now it's like the 7 years are blank because if they would have checked the second place guy, he was on steroids too. I mean, it's kind of like, so it's like, and I think there's other years that don't have a winner of the Tour de France.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of sad, and to me, it's kind of like, I wonder how many of these guys are using it now, bicycling across, and they just have better ways to hide it because,
they do a couple of different things. Not only like testosterone derivatives, but they will get transfusions of blood to make their hemoglobin higher and have a higher oxygen carrying capacity. There's ways of cheating.
And that's being tested too, though. Some blood oxygen.
Yeah, the
thing. Some people don't build up their oxygen by coming here because we're at 5,000 feet. You just go to the mountains right next to us, and they're at 8,000, so they build it up.
Yeah, you'll get legally
But that's why we have the Olympic Training Center here, is to force people to
train at altitude,
better capacity on their lungs.
Yeah, for sure. That's for sure. Of course, with the introduction now of biological males playing female sports, it's like they don't even need to take extra steroids. They're already coming complete.
I mean, it's kind of an advantage in a lot of ways.
It's a huge advantage.
And that's a thing, it's become a political issue, but it's not an easy decision on how you're going to do this. So it's right for everybody, and everybody has their opinion, but everybody's coming, people who were there before are coming from a place like, I don't care if they identify as women, but then to compete against them is another thing.
Yes, and it doesn't matter if you're now on female hormones because you've already had the growth as a male. You've already gotten taller, bigger bones, larger muscle mass. So even if you change to taking female hormones, you've already got the permanent advantage.
There's a sport. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. This sport might surprise you.
Well, I was thinking curling.
Well, me too. Which is good for anybody that knows how to sweep.
No, this is a lot harder sport to do, and I mean...
Darts?
No, that's
pool?
Way harder. It's probably... And that is... It's running races like 50 miles or more.
Oh,
what's that called?
Like Ironman?
Ironman races.
Yeah.
They said after a certain distance, it doesn't matter if you're male or female.
Well, that's interesting.
They compete head to head. I read this book, Born to Run. It's about this Mexican tribe where they run all the time, and they came. The first race that came was the 100-mile up in the mountain here, Silverton race, and they got 3 of the top 4 positions. And
wow!
And they were tribesmen. I mean.
Yeah, if I wrote that book, it would have been called Born to Drive.
Yeah.
Well,
I can drive just as far.
Yeah,
The author, I don't think the author ran, but or maybe
But he had
not
to
like
write.
these
His
two-
fingers got tired.
yeah. Born to Type.
Hey,
Born
you
to
know on
type.
curling though? You know where they recruit curling for the Olympics?
Yeah.
School janitor's office.
I tell you, this curling though, I found seriously to be an interesting sport because there's a lot of strategy in it.
There is, and there's actually a lot of skill to learn to throw the rocks properly.
Because it's not that
totally
easy because these guys are.
Yeah, most people that curl in Canada often do it because there's nothing else to do at 40 degrees below zero.
That's what it was popular in North Dakota.
Yeah.
Blake Shelton has a version on one of his shows where they're pushing beer kegs.
That's very funny. That's very funny. Yeah.
My dad worked with someone. His 2 sons went to the Junior World Championships 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they placed like 5th or 6th or something those 2 years. But I mean, it's a big sport in North Dakota.
Yeah, big sport throughout Canada as well.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
you're right,
especially
it's
rural
cold.
community.
and it
Yeah,
gives you
people go to
something
have a beer or
do.
2 or 3. And, yeah. Well, we will talk
won't
about other.
about curling when we get back.
Yeah, that's right.
We promise you.
We're going to
we
sweep
don't
that subject under the rug.
We don't mean my hair.
Real people, real stories, real life. We're looking for guests. We're looking for you here on the third chair. I'm Peter, that's Doug, and how many different ways can we have guests?
Oh, at least 3. We can have them here in the studio in Colorado Springs. We've had guests all the way from LA on a Zoom, and we have gone on location, and we got our 3rd one already in the planning phase.
Awesome. Send us an email and we'll get you on the show.
Heard about Sammy?
Yes, apparently Sammy is stuck in a ditch
Gotta get to the studio.
and they've had to call a tow truck to pull him out.
Wow.
He's just moving along.
Yeah. I wonder if he blew a tire. I bet he's very tired. As a matter of fact, that
Well, you're
reminds me.
stretching it.
Yeah, that
Why
reminds
don't you
me.
read a question?
That reminds me of a
Because don't
joke. What did the turtle say after he'd been run over by a car? Man, am I tired?
You know, if you would have told that first, it might have been funnier.
Yeah, it was a sad attempt at humor. Okay.
Doug's turtle Darwin is not laughing.
Yeah.
No, he watches this show with me, you know. I hold him up.
Now, is it true you feed him pineapple?
No.
Savage.
Fruits, though. A lot of strawberries, raspberries, blueberries. Well, yeah, raspberries, blueberries, yeah.
Does he like my favorite blackberries?
You know, I don't think we ever fed him blackberry.
Well, I'll have to give it a try sometime. So, you know that I'm from Canada, and probably the only time I paid attention to baseball is when the Toronto Blue Jays won the World Series 2 years in a row. They beat Atlanta one year, 4-3.
4-2.
Or was it the other team? One of them, it was 4-3.
They were both 4-2.
I think we're going to have a fact checker called on this one. I think the Blue Jays won of the series by 4-3. We'll check it out in the next break. But anyway, so how did the Canadian team manage to win the World Series?
They had a good general manager who built that team for years. And at first they had a lot of strong pitching with some strong hitters, and they were competitive. Because they won in 92 and 93, and the next year they went on strike. They were competitive in the 80s, and they were just missing. And they had some real good teams there. And they kind of kept those cores and built within that. And then after the strike, they were never the same again. So, I mean...
Did they lose... did they basically add, for a couple seasons, just some big money players? And then...
They built a lot within. They had some big money players that towards the... They rented, well, you mentioned before, in the second season of the World Series, they were weak in left field, and Ricky Henderson came over, and he played left field for them in the World. And he didn't hit well in the World Series, but he walked so much, he scored like 7 runs.
And wasn't he good at stealing bases as well? Wasn't that one of his things?
He was all-time champion base stealer. I mean, in his career, he stole 1,400 and some bases, okay?
That's pretty good.
And the next guy, Lou Brock, stole 930 something, somewhere in there, so he's 500 ahead of the next guy.
Were those the same length seasons, same number of games?
Yeah, Lou Brock was there when Ricky broke his record. Lou Brock retired 74, 75. Ricky started about 80. So, I mean, they missed by 5 years each other, but Lou Brock was. And, I mean, Lou Brock broke Ty Cobb's record, who played in the teens and in the 20s.
Yeah,
So, I mean, this was twice in my lifetime that record's been broken. And
that's pretty good.
And now people don't steal bases any longer, so Ricky's pretty
So why don't they steal
safe.
bases any longer?
Because they're going for the 3 outcomes: hit a home run, walk, or strikeout. And
Is that to make more excitement in the game? I
don't know.
They changed the rules, limiting the number of times the pitcher can step off the base to.
Well, they did that to hopefully bring strikeouts. They were it was kind of a strategy situation that they bought in more pitchers, and they said, you used to throw fastballs and curves, and they said just throw all curves, and you won't pitch as long, and that way it will save your arm. I don't know if it really saves their arm, but it's kind of more effective if you bring in 9 guys throwing 1 inning.
Well, I was reading a statistic, though, because it's interesting you mentioned that. One was that the current group of pitchers actually throw faster fastballs.
That's true to an extent. They probably do, but not that much faster, because a lot of times when they write these, they're comparing the technology's better and we catch the ball sooner and the ball slows down as it goes to the plate. And since they catch the ball sooner, it's registering faster, and I don't know how much they're accounting for that, and I don't know how much they need to.
But also the number of strikeouts is way up.
Yeah, unfortunately, one of the bad things that's happened in baseball since the start of baseball.
So you didn't think I looked into that, but I did.
I'm impressed. The start of baseball has all seen increase in strikeouts, and now it's on a very bad level. I mean, it's
batting averages are going
because
down.
Strikeouts are up more than anything, and players are trying for home runs, and it's everybody in the lineup. And I think from a fan style of view, the 80s and then 70s and 80s and the early 90s was a more fun game to watch because you had different types of batters. More balls were hit and play. It wasn't less strikeouts, walks, and home runs. So you have to see the fielders fielding better. You can hide fielders better nowadays because there's less balls hit on the field, and
Yeah, which is
So
another.
I think it's less fun to watch. And then the thing is, there was one team last year that had 40 guys pitch for them. They were bad.
40 guys.
Yeah, I think
That's one way to save your arm.
Yeah, I mean, they provided, 42 guys, and some pitched 5 innings and some pitched like 150, yeah. But you don't see the best pitchers as much anymore. And then they're getting taken out after the 5th or 6th game, and then you used to see some pitchers be tired at the end and struggling to finish, but working it out and having a lot of grit. And you don't see things like that because the manager will just take them out now. And I think it takes away from the game, and I think that's the next big thing that baseball has to work is limit the number of pitchers a team can have for a year, because 42 is ridiculous. Because heck, used to be you could memorize all the starters in the league when they had 8 teams and even 10 teams, and 12 teams. You knew most of the players. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't care after the first 7 or 8 who the other 33 guys are. They're major leaguers, but it's like, I'm not going to memorize who they are.
Yeah, and maybe not study them as much. And
yeah,
because
there's 30 teams. You got 30 guys on a team. Well, the championship team had only like 20-some pitchers, which is still to me too much. Mm-hmm. But it's not. I'm not interested in after the first 7, 8 guys. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like you're just a bunch of arms I see throwing the ball.
Well, another thing that I looked into, and you can talk about this when we come back, is the fact that they now there was a time when you could move all your players in the infield to one side of the field, and they're not letting you do that now. There always has to be a certain number on each side of the infield. And I forget, is that called an extreme pull?
Shifting.
Extreme shifting. That's being outlawed.
Yeah, or you can,
with the idea that maybe we'll see
someone who pulls the ball all the time.
And so that might result in more infield hits if you can't stack everyone on one side. Like a human wall trying to get the ball by me. Anyways, we'll talk about that rule change and whether it is another good rule or just another silly one when we come back. You're not going to believe this. We've heard from our guest, the turtle.
Oh, no.
Apparently, animal control has picked him up.
Producer Doug is going to be mad.
And he wants us...
He's an independent turtle.
He's an independent turtle, but he's been picked up, netted for...
Doesn't he have his...
Now we have to bail him out?
We have to bail... We've sent someone from the company to bail him out.
This episode's costing us more and more.
Yeah. Didn't he carry his tortoise license?
I don't think he did. On top of that, he was caught for jaywalking. And so...
well, that was the easy catch for the police.
yeah, the foot pursuit only lasted about 3 seconds.
Did Sammy even get one step?
No, and we were really encouraging him to come be on the show because he is finally willing to come out of his shell. But he just...
Now, that was one of your best ones of the
night. Oh, yeah, I know that's
Peter got a good one.
Yeah, and
we'll give you points for that.
And we promised him no jokes about turtle soup. Yeah.
So why did you put that cookbook on the chair earlier?
With a fresh piece of pineapple.
Yeah, we hit it now.
Yeah. So,
is turtle soup good with pineapple?
I have no idea. I've had turtle soup, but
nothing is good with pineapple.
No, especially Canadian bacon pizza. Oh, it's like a little piece of heaven.
Oh, you mean ham?
That's right, but it's Canadian bacon ham, so you can charge people more money. Yeah, and so...
my aunt, they went up to Canada from North Dakota because we were 75 miles from the border.
Oh, wow.
And they stopped this little place for breakfast, and my aunt ordered Canadian bacon, and she got the American bacon. She was going to be complaining. My dad says, we're in Canada, it's all Canadian bacon. I think she probably threw her bacon at my dad.
That's like, what do they call Chinese food in China?
Food, yeah. So we were talking about baseball, and I guess they're trying to make the game more interesting.
Well, one other thing is faster, too, and shifting takes time because you got to run across here and here, and with the 20-second limit, you probably can do it, but they also were saying, well, these guys are stopping too many hits. Or,
basically.
I don't know how effective it was overall because they have a stat. People track like how many hits happened on the field without homers and the percentage, and it really didn't change that much. But the thing is, I didn't really, besides speeding up the game, I didn't like the rule that much because I feel if they shift, you should be able to hit it to the part of the one. There's a hole there.
True,
and
but you have people practice. You have people practice pulling. It's it's like you're making them.
But there were players in the old days that could.
Oh,
if they shifted on them, they would have been.
Do we see many switch hitters anymore?
We never really had that many.
My memory of the game was there were a few.
One of the things they found out, they tried to train some guys to switch hit, and some it kind of worked, and some it didn't work. And they found out if a guy didn't do it since as a kid and feels comfortable doing it, it's not worth doing because their batting average, their stronger side still showed about the same as everybody else's, and sometimes even more. So, some players who were taught to switch hits stopped switch hitting later in their career.
Sure, that makes sense.
So that's a little less
intuitive sense.
Yeah, because one of the things you practice in your eyes, like the right eye leads if you're a left-handed batter, seeing the ball, or so you also have to trade your eyes to watch the ball.
Well, I was looking at a statistic, Mr. Ex-auditor of the Department of Defense, who used to threaten five-star generals for spending too much money on B-1 bombers, even though that was the Air Force. I was reading a statistic that if a pitcher throws a 90-mile-an-hour fastball and they're 60 feet away, that the pitcher has literally 0.15 seconds to analyze the pitch accurately.
The batter does?
The batter does, yes, pardon me. The batter has 0.15 seconds to analyze, basically the time of a blink.
So basically what he's doing is taking the information in his brain
and deciding to swing or not.
And just doing it off the memory of where he's seen that before as much as possible. Because he can't analyze, like, oh, it's going to curve and swing on time or not, or he's just looking at the arm angle and stuff and reacting to it.
Some people say that's actually the most difficult part of any sport, is being able to figure out how to hit a 90-mile-an-hour fastball.
It's not easy.
No, yeah, I mean, I remember I was at a college game and a guy I knew was the batter. It was like AAA ball or whatever college level ball is called, Division I, and the guy threw a fastball, and my friend said I couldn't even see it, and the umpire called it a strike, and he turned to the umpire and he says, "That was so fast, I couldn't even see it." And the umpire said, "I couldn't see it either, but it sounded like a strike." So I'm not sure there's any sport where you're seeing something come that fast that you have to do something with.
That's true.
Hockey pucks, maybe the exception of some hockey pucks.
Hockey pucks have been hit over 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, I was going to say 90 is really common. Yeah.
Brett Hall, you mentioned earlier, his father, Bobby Hall, was timed at 100 miles an hour.
I met Bobby Hall in Vancouver. Yeah, he had a house actually. He had a friend who had a house behind our house, and I asked him, because he was very, very muscular, to do those slap shots. And I actually asked him, I said, like, do you like pump a lot of iron, do a lot of weights? And he said no. He had a farm, and he literally with a pitchfork was baling the bales of hay, and that's how he got his physique.
You know, you read about players in all the sports who are strong individuals, and you read the jobs they did, and they said, yeah, I did this. And I said, I'd go do that every winter. Mm-hmm. And those jobs, they build muscles. I mean, you used to have, I had people deliver ice. I mean, and that was to fill your refrigerators to keep the fridge cold all day.
Oh, like bringing chunks of ice in to the ice box.
So those weren't light.
No. I knew some teachers in northern British Columbia that were quite in shape, and how they did it is on summer break they actually worked for logging companies. And when you're like at the low level of the logging process, you are literally digging out dirt and taking these giant chains and chokers and putting them around the logs. I mean, just grueling physical labor.
Yeah, and you come out of that strong.
You come out of that strong, and they made really good money. Oh, yeah, because there's not a lot of guys that strong. Well, not a lot of guys that want to do it, yeah, that's for sure.
But I mean, and then you come to sports, and it's like, sometimes it's almost a break, like play a game.
Yeah, exactly. But well, it seems like a lot of combat sports end up that way. They train really hard for a fight, and then like someone gets knocked out in like a minute. You don't go 25 minutes or 15 rounds, but they still train like they have to.
Right.
Yeah. So when we come back,
we're going to check on our progress of our
turtle. Yes, we've contacted the official lawyer for the company, and he has met him at the jail, and hopefully he will.
We have a male
expedite.
Lawyer now, huh?
Yeah, we have a company lawyer.
We've gone down.
Expert in animal situations.
Animal situations.
Oh, that's why we use him when we have animal stuff.
But you better get here quick. We only have one segment left of this episode.
And it's a short one.
Well, it is a small turtle, so we will just see what we can figure out. And we will be right back. Hi, I'm Peter from Pikes Peak Recovery Coaching, and as you know, I do help people with drug and alcohol recovery issues. I love to help people get better. But I also offer a variety of other services, including regular life coaching services. I've helped several people write and finish a book. I've helped a doctor that was in medical school graduate and then get into a residency. And I also actually have quite a background in mathematics, and I do some math tutoring for the GED as well as the ASVAB for those that are thinking about a career in the military. So my contact information is on the screen. Please send me an email or a text, and we can talk about some of these services and how I can help. That's Peter Grigg at Pikes Peak Recovery Coaching.
So where is Sammy now? Because the episode's almost over.
He is on the road again, but he's at turtle speed.
Oh, yeah, he's on the road
do you
again.
think we can get him next week?
I'm on my way.
I hope so.
Did you book this guest?
I did, and I also posted bail. I had to sign over your car to get the turtle out.
My car.
Yeah, your car as collateral for the bondsman.
I was going home the same way the turtle did.
Yeah, I might as well stay here this week.
That's the way it's shaping up. I got a few monkey biscuits in the car that I can leave you. I learned a new term.
What did you learn?
Something called sabermetrics, and I know that term. It's about analyzing sabers fighting.
You know what? Our audience will have to wait till next week to find out about this.
Oh no, we can't do that.
Yes, we can.
So it's sabermetrics, not sobermetrics or supermetrics.
Sobermetrics is when the police officer pulls you over by the side of the road and asks you if you've been drinking.
Yeah, there was some.
You should have done a little more research. I got a word that you didn't.
That's right. I heard there was some concern that Sammy the Turtle may have had some impaired turtle.
I gave you this. Sabermetrics is the study of baseball to find out why teams win.
To why teams win as opposed to why teams lose?
Well, you could find out why they lose too.
Is that answering the same question just sort of in a different way?
Yeah.
Yeah. See,
you're interested in winning usually if you're general manager because you want to keep your job.
Well, I actually did a degree in sabermetrics. I had never told you about this. I have a PhD in sabermetrics, and
I want you next week.
Yeah, and what I found out from my thesis, my doctoral thesis, is that the reason a team wins is that they score more runs than the other team.
Well, that's very good.
That's right. Even if it takes extra innings.
Astute analysis there.
Well, very good.
And then my second doctorate was why do team lose? And guess what I found out? They score less than the other team.
Wow,
you're
that's
a genius.
Just amazing. We just never.
Well, I don't know if we need to come back next week.
We bow to you.
Well,
maybe that's interesting because, I knew a lot about hockey because I grew up in North Dakota. You know a lot because you grew up in Canada.
Yeah.
And I mean, there it's kind of, you watch it and all that.
It's almost religion-like quality.
And then there's a couple times I explained it to people. One of the times is we were in Washington, D.C., and Gretzky was going to play, and we got tickets to watch Wayne Gretzky play. And the other three people I was going with had never seen a hockey game.
Oh, wow.
So I'm explaining it. And you know what the first question they always ask? Explain the offside rule.
Oh, yes.
And I'm like, no, you can't start with the offside rule. It's like starting with the balk rule in baseball or infield fly.
Yeah.
First, let's go through some of the basics here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how does a team win? They put it in the other team's net more.
Right.
Some of how they're trying to stop them. Because otherwise, the offside rule does not make a bit of sense.
Well, the offside rules changed over the years. It's changed two or three times.
It's made it easier to score each time.
Yeah, you can make longer passes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like. I mean, because you want to see some scoring in a high. Once in a while, 1-0 game. But it's like baseball. 1-0 game can be good in the right situation. I could next week I'll tell you about that too. And
yeah,
then,
but people want to see 15-9. They want to see the hits and the
they want to
runners
see the
running.
hits, but sometimes the game changes. Like in hockey, there was low scoring at one time,
Yeah.
and in baseball there was lower scoring, and then you have to make adjustments to make the game better again.
Yeah. Now, I've studied a little bit of baseball for this episode, and the defensive strategies in baseball are far more subtle than, say, compared to ice hockey or football. When people make adjustments, it's usually fairly obvious, but a lot of times, I'll watch on TV and like a guy will take one step to his left and the announcers will be going crazy. Look at that brilliant defensive strategy. And I'm thinking, man, the guy just like stepped to his left.
And that's probably because it's Coach Wade.
Yeah.
Stand over there, John.
Exactly. Well, we're going to have to wait till next week to find out what happened to the turtle. And
sabermetrics and 1-0 games.
And 1-0 games. Plus, we're going to talk about some really cool people from the history of baseball.
If we get
and
to
how
it.
they, well, you never know with this crew.
Because we're off the rails.
We're off the rails, that's right. We've never enjoyed talking more and saying so little as we have tonight. So please like, share, subscribe, and tune in. Hit the bell notification icon so you know when we've uploaded another episode. Thanks for watching. We really do appreciate your support, and good night.